Thank you for tuning in to the Catch a Lift Fund's Coach's Corner podcast. We hope you enjoy today's episode and will consider supporting the Catch a Lift Fund and the veterans we serve. Visit our website for more information about our programs at catchaliftfund.org. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis or suicidal thoughts, please call 988 or the Veterans Crisis Line 988, followed immediately by the number 1. The views and opinions expressed during the Coach's Corner podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the Catch a Lift Fund. The Catch a Lift Fund does not verify or warrant the truth or accuracy of statements made during the podcast, and statements therein are not to be construed as an official policy or position of the Catch a Lift Fund. This podcast is provided for informational purposes only, and nothing herein should be construed as health, medical, or other professional advice. The Coach's Corner is a place for veterans to connect, heal, and share their stories. I'm Melissa Luke, the host of the Coach's Corner podcast. I am a U.S. Army Iraq War veteran, coach, and program director for the Catch a Lift Fund. The Coach's Corner is sponsored by ID Technologies. Welcome to this week's episode of the Coach's Corner. We've got another great episode for you today with Kale veteran and U.S. Marine Corps veteran Ben Korf. Today, Ben works as a financial crimes consultant. We're so excited for him to join us on the show. Welcome to this week's episode of the Coach's Corner. Ben, welcome.
Yes, Melissa, thank you for having me today.
Oh, we're so excited to talk with you. Let's jump right into it. Ben, if you don't mind, talk to us a little bit about your life growing up and what led you to join the military.
Well, I had a couple of family members that were in the military, and going through high school, I think I was in 9th grade sitting in a classroom when 9/11 happened. Okay. And probably from that point on, I knew at some point I wanted to go into the military. So I tried my hand at college. I went to Iowa Central for 2 years. And I was pretty much just done with school at that point. You know, I wanted to do something else. So that week I decided to go to the recruiter's office and sign up. And then I shipped out to boot camp about a month later.
What year did you end up joining, Ben?
2006.
2006. What job specialty would you join with?
Infantry, just basic 0311 infantry. That's what I wanted to do.
Why the Marines?
Well, they're the best of the best.
There we go.
I had a cousin that was in the Marines, and to be honest, I just always had them in my head. I didn't even look at the other branches, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, through my time in service, as all vets know, certain branches have maybe nicer things than the Marines had, but.
What do you remember most about training up as a young Marine?
What do I remember most is joining up?
Yeah, as a young Marine training and that whole culture coming into it.
Oh, man. I mean, for one, our boot camp is the longest one out of the service. And there was just the discipline instilled in us going through boot camp. I mean, when they say, like, they transform you, they really do.
Yeah.
You know, there's that breakdown point that everybody goes through in boot camp, and I still remember it to this day, from going from, I guess, a civilian to becoming a Marine. It's like almost like a switch gets flipped.
What do you think makes the Marines so effective about doing that transformation to a young man or woman?
I think it's just the, they've been around for a long time, like the other branches, and it's just the discipline that gets instilled. It's a lot of repetition. So doing the same movements and the same training over and over and over again until it becomes, basic muscle memory, so you could just do it without thinking.
Yeah. You would go on to deploy to Iraq 2 times, Ben. Talk to us about that first deployment in 2006. What was your unit's mission?
Sure. 2006. So kind of right before that I had just gotten to the fleet with the Marines, and we thought we had plenty of time of just training back at home, sharpening our skills. And President Bush called our unit up, so we had about 2.5 or 3 months to get ready to go. So training kicked in, and then when we got over there, we were basically living in a rundown, beat up, blown up horse stable that we shared with about 30 Iraqi police.
Really?
Yeah, none of them spoke English except maybe a couple words, about as much as I spoke Arabic.
Right.
So it was interesting to live with them. Our main mission, we were outside of this town called Anna or Rayana, and we were kind of detached away from the rest of the company. And so we were just patrolling that town day in and day out, and then working with the Iraqi police, trying to get them trained so they could take over and we could leave to go on somewhere else.
What was that experience like working with the Iraqi police?
It was eye-opening, especially to see their background and, them being as part of the military of the Iraqi police. They were hated almost as much as we were being there by Al-Qaeda and the other groups there. We always had one with us on post every day, because we do 8 hours of standing post every day. And so just, me and an Iraqi police officer in a box for 8 hours every day. And we would honestly, just to pass the time, we would point at stuff, and, I'd ask him how to say that in Arabic. He'd ask me how to say it in English. And that's what we did to kind of pass the time, other than staring out at the empty desert.
Yeah. What was it like coming home for you after that first deployment?
Coming home, I mean, with it being my, our first time overseas, we had, it's kind of hard to put into words. Like, we got home, turned all our gear in, and then we went on leave for, I think only 10 days, or maybe it was 30 days. And so we had a short time frame to kind of decompress everything. And then we jumped right back into our training and our workup again for the next deployment. So there wasn't a lot of downtime to kind of sit and reflect on everything that happened, everything we did.
So kind of looking at that period of time, because it was a fairly quick turnaround for you, how do you think that impacted you, or your ability to be able to acknowledge any changes within yourself?
We didn't really get the chance to be honest. Like, being in the mindset of a Marine and our fire team, our squad, company, battalion, you kind of just had to push all that stuff down and get ready for the next one. I mean, I didn't really get a chance to really decompress and process all that stuff until after I got out.
Talk to us about that second deployment to Fallujah, Iraq in 2008, Ben.
It was a little different, where our first deployment, we didn't have much. We didn't have, electricity, running water. We had one sat phone that was duct taped together that you could kind of make a call on, but everybody had to share it. The second deployment, we were on the northern edge of Fallujah running an entry checkpoint. So we were basically making IDs, and everybody who came into the city, they get scanned. We'd check their ID and make sure they're okay to come in. So we manned that checkpoint, and then we'd run patrols out into the city every day, and then we'd stand our post. We were separated, just our platoon. So, I mean, we had a couple hooches for each squad. Then we had an outdoor kind of make together gym that had been built up over the years of just whatever we could find around us, just something to kind of de-stress.
What was it like having access to that equipment and being able to work out like that during that second deployment?
Oh, it was amazing. Even though the equipment wasn't the best, we figured out ways to make it work. And then we were at our entry checkpoint for about 5 months before they pulled us out of it. So we had to tear everything down. And then we went to one of the main fobs called Bazaria. And that was on top of Saddam's son's palace that was all like taken down. And there we had it's called an MWR. So it had internet. You could watch movies, make phone calls. It had like Xbox. We had a full chow hall. And really nothing to do at that point except just eat and work out.
Yeah, quite different from that first deployment living in the horse stable.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Did you notice any differences kind of like between the local population that you'd deal with between those years of 2006 and when you'd come back again in 2008?
Yeah, in 2006, we were still a little closer to that initial push going into Iraq, and we would basically on our patrols, like we knew who I guess like the leaders of the towns were, and we had a pretty good rapport with them. And so when we go out, the people around us, you could tell they wanted us there. The kids
Yeah.
loved to run up to us. We were constantly, handing out like candy and chocolate, and but then in 2008 when we were in Fallujah, the scene was a little bit different. We were a little more removed from that initial push, but you could just tell, not as many people were so friendly to us. They go in and shut their door and lock their door.
Yeah.
The kids won't run up to us as much.
Looking back at those two deployments, Ben, what stands out to you the most today?
Probably, I mean, to be honest, like going in on the first one and the second one, every day you're going out of the base to go on those patrols, wondering like, am I going to make it back to the base today? And then just that constant patrol, stand post, sleep, patrol, stand post, sleep. 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours every day for 7 months. It was just like your discipline kicked in, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and like it changed who I was. It really made me the man I am today. Yeah. Just from going through that experience.
Yeah. What about that second time coming home, Ben? What was that like?
The second time coming home was probably, I would have been in for just over 3 years. And so I had a reenlistment package put in, and then I canceled it at the last minute. I thought it was best for me. I did my 4 years. I wanted to, get out. I felt like I was missing stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure a lot of people went through that phase. And so I got detached from my, platoon, the guys I'd been with for 3 years. And I got sent out to one of the other bases to just, they call it fapping out. They want to get you away from the training companies, and just they'll give you like some basic medial task or job just to bide your time, basically. Yeah. And so it was finally to the point in the Marines where I was just like almost living a normal life. It was kind of like a job at that point.
Okay. How were you doing during that time? Like mentally coming off of like what you just described, for 7 months, just this extreme discipline, with what you were doing in Iraq. How were you doing now being back home into kind of more of a normal situation?
It was a hard transition. I mean, we still spent most of our time on base just because we were busy doing stuff. But especially like those first weeks or months coming back from deployment, you go out to the mall, you're driving your car, you're looking at stuff on the sides of the roads, like trash piles and stuff. Any loud noises kind of set you off. And then the worst part was having like a kind of like a ghost arm of your rifle. Like, you're walking through the mall, going through a store, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, where's my rifle at? Or something like that. So it took a little bit of time to like, hey, remember, like, okay, I'm back to being a normal person now. It's okay. I could like go shopping.
What were your relationships like during that time, Ben?
I mean, I've had a good support system through my parents and my sister at the time. And then, I mean, the brothers I served with, like, I don't know if you can describe it, like how close we were, obviously we were willing to die for each other. So having those guys as we all came back as a support system was really crucial in transitioning back to being in the stateside. So we relied a lot on each other.
Yeah. What about when you'd get out of the Marine Corps? What did that look like for you? And, what was it like when you left that environment?
So my last day, I flew my dad out to California, and then we made the drive back. Um, it was 60 degrees when we left. We drove through the mountains. It was negative 20 and snowing, and then finally got back to Iowa. And it's about 40 degrees and sunny. It was a 3-day drive for us. Um, but then so as soon as I got back, I stayed at my parents' house for maybe a couple of weeks, and then I moved down to a college town where I went to college at University of Northern Iowa, and moved in with some of my high school childhood friends. The ones that I thought that I was missing out on.
Yeah.
I came quickly to realize there wasn't much I was missing. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely we'll circle back, and I want to talk to you more about that time and going back to school. But there would be a time when you would struggle with alcohol. Would you talk to us about that time, Ben?
Yeah. So it was kind of in my genes. My dad was an alcoholic. He quit cold turkey the day I was born. My mom gave him the ultimatum, and so he hasn't drank since. And that was always very important to me.
Right.
So I didn't really start drinking until after high school. That first couple of years of college, I tried my hand at the partying like everybody does. But then once I got into the Marines and, we started going on our deployments, we were living in a squad bay with each other with nothing to do but drink and play
Right.
Xbox if we weren't training. So then when I got out, I really started to compress and deal with all those feelings and everything that happened. And I turned to alcohol to do it. And then, so fast forward through college, I got married, we started having kids, and then my divorce hit. And that's when I really started drinking to kind of cope with everything. And so then I basically, I pulled strength from my dad and gave myself a choice. I could, I guess, suck it up and be the dad that I wanted to be for my 2 kids, or I could go down that path and who knows what would have happened to me. So I ended up checking myself into the St. Cloud VA for 30 days, and it was the best decision I've ever made in my life. I was sitting there like every other veteran thinking, I have a full-time job, I have responsibilities, like this isn't an option for me. But it was. I worked for a great company that gave me some time off to, take care of myself.
That's tremendous. That's tremendous. What would you say, Ben, to any veterans listening, that are struggling with alcohol or substance and they don't even know where to start?
Well, I'd tell them it's possible. I did it. A lot of vets have done it. There is help out there if you know where to look for it. So, I spent a lot of time with the AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. That didn't really work for me per se. It just didn't fit like my type of personality. So there's a lot of good outreach programs too, specifically for veterans in fitness surrounding, like the Kale program.
Right.
So when I was at the VA, I got connected to the Kale program, and that's really what jump-started my life, is living a sober life.
That's tremendous. Yeah. That's tremendous. Ben, what would you say now? What helps you the most to stay steadfast on that mission of sobriety?
I need to keep myself busy, for one. And so I try to do as much as I can to get out of my house. I think a lot of vets struggle. They don't want to be around anybody, which I understand. But the more I sit at home by myself and I have nothing but my thoughts, that's when I can get myself into trouble. So the busier I stay, so I try to look to see where I can volunteer in the community. If there's any like veteran focused or based places, like AMVETS was a good thing that I got into, just to get around some other veterans that I can really, speak vet with, if you want to say, they understand too. If I try and have that conversation with, a regular person, they might look at me like I'm crazy. So it's nice to find that, I guess, another brotherhood again, that support is out there that I could rely on and reach out to if I needed to.
I don't know. I'm curious your thoughts on this, Ben. So I've definitely seen a shift within the veteran community the last few years, with a lot more vets that are sober now or pursuing sobriety and really living that life. Have you seen that too?
I have. So I've been sober for about 3.5 years now, and even in that time frame, when I'd first bring it up to people, it was almost like an awkward, weird thing to say.
Yeah,
Like
right.
we go out somewhere and they'd be like, "Oh, you're not drinking? Why?" You know, and then I'd have to feel like I'd have to explain myself, like
Yeah,
because I don't want to.
right. Yeah,
But even as of today, just like you said, like I'll be like, yeah, I don't drink anymore, and it'll just be a general conversation with another vet or somebody else, and be like, oh yeah, me too. Like I've been
yeah,
wanting to quit too. Like I want to
yeah,
hear more about it, and I think we're just becoming to realize that like the negative effects that alcohol really has on the
yeah.
body. And
Yeah, I think so too. It's been tremendous to kind of see that evolution, and almost like you said too. It's really been the last couple years, that I've really seen it. So definitely, congratulations on this time that you've been sober, and we're incredibly happy for you, and thank you for speaking
thanks.
about that.
Yeah.
Um, I want to shift back a little bit and talk about your school, and you would study criminology. What drove that, Ben? Why criminology?
Uh, so it would have been 2004 when I graduated high school. I had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up yet. So I just kind of picked. It's probably why I went into the military. That whole line of like a public defender almost.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
so I was either going to choose criminology or radiology for whatever reason, something in the hospital field, and I kind of just picked criminology, and that's the route I went into.
Talk about going back to school as an untraditional student.
It was definitely tough, um, because of the little amount of schooling I had at Iowa Central Community College. I had to take a lot of basic classes at Northern Iowa that a lot of the other classmates in there were 18, 19 years old, just out of high school. And I didn't feel like I could really connect with any of them.
Yeah.
Not only the age gap, but just the world experience I had compared to them. Um, I felt like we didn't have anything in common at all. So it it wasn't like my traditional like college years like I thought it was going to be when I first got out. I enjoyed college the first time, and this time it was
Right.
just kind of a means to an end to get my degree.
Yeah. Today, Ben, you work for Wells Fargo as a financial crimes consultant. First of all, what is a financial crimes consultant? Could you kind of explain that to us?
Yeah, so for they can have a lot of different roles, and basically it comes down to identity theft and credit card fraud.
Okay.
So I spend my day working with victims of fraud, processing their claims, steering them in the right direction, I guess, to get their credit back on track and help them move forward from being a victim. And it can definitely be interesting, but
I'm sure.
at the same time, I sit in front of a computer for 8 hours a day.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about what it's been like working for Wells Fargo.
Um, they've gotten a lot of bad press over the years, but honestly, as a company, I like working for them. The benefits are amazing. They're very flexible. They were really flexible and willing to work with me when I was going through my struggles.
That's tremendous.
When they didn't have to.
Yeah.
Um, I just last year was my 10-year mark.
Congratulations.
So, I don't know.
That's very cool.
It's a company I like to work for.
Yeah. What do you find most fulfilling about the work you do now with them?
It's another way for me to help people. It's always been my passion to do whatever I can to help somebody else who needs it. So being able to help these victims go through the process, because it can be quite a life-changing process.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure.
I guess it almost kind of sounds like selfish that, I'm getting something from it too. Just the feeling of being able to help somebody like that.
That's tremendous. I mean, so I know I have anybody that's ever had to deal with any type of credit card theft or identity type stuff. I mean, you're a complete hero to us because that is one of the most stressful situations you can go through.
It's annoying at best.
Yeah, at best, for sure. Ben, talk to us about I want to talk to you about all things fitness. You've done so much different stuff, and we've got some really cool stuff to talk about there. But talk to us a little bit just about in general. How was fitness? How was kind of played a role in your life?
So I've always been like an athletic type of person, whether, I wrestled, played football, did track in high school. I tried my hand at wrestling in college, but it was a little out of my league. But I've always been passionate about fitness, and fitness is really what saved my life, especially going through my struggles. That's what I was able to turn to as a coping mechanism instead of alcohol. It was
Right.
fitness, and I've done everything. I tried everything. CrossFit, powerlifting, bodybuilding. I went through a couple year phase where I was running every day. Um, so I've tried it all, and especially the groups that you can get yourself into, and when you get into a gym or a CrossFit gym or a team like that, you're really surrounding yourself with people who also want to live a healthy
Yeah.
lifestyle, and that's going to imprint on you rather than me spending my time at the bar with other people who just want to
Yeah.
be at a bar. And
Oh,
so it helps
definitely.
set me up for success too.
Yeah. What do you think has helped? What do you think has helped you on your journey the most with fitness?
Well, the Cal program has been a huge help. Having that type of support system behind me, knowing that if I need to reach out for something, or
Yeah.
if I'm struggling and I kind of don't know where to turn to or where to
Right.
go, you guys have those resources out there that I can just pull up and look into. And even like there's chat rooms, and all
Yeah.
the trainers and coaches are available for the, like, if I'm struggling with like just boredom of doing the same. I get bored easily at the gym, so
Yeah.
I like to change up my workouts. It's nice to have like a whole plethora of stuff to pull from.
Ben, you've got an exciting fitness pursuit that you're going after later this year. Talk to us about the toughest mutter.
Okay, so just a preset, I've never done a tough mutter before. So for some reason, I decided to do the toughest mutter.
I love it.
Um, there's I love doing mud races and obstacle course races, and I've always wanted to do one, but the problem is they're about 4 hours away. So this one's in the Twin Cities, and I figured if I'm going to drive that far, I'm not just going to do like a 10K race.
Yeah.
And so the toughest mutter, it starts at 8 p.m. on Saturday night and goes to 8 a.m. Sunday morning. So it's a 12-hour race throughout the night. And from what I know of it, it's a 10-mile race course with the toughest of the Tough Mudder obstacles in it. And it's basically just an endurance race to see how many times you can get through that course.
Nice.
And they have like little medals too that say like I made it 20 miles, 30 miles, 40 miles. So
Oh,
I think
very cool.
my goal is to do it, definitely the 20 for sure. And then I should be able to do 30, but I'm going to push myself for 40 and kind of see how that goes.
Heck yeah. That's awesome. When is that, Ben?
It is in July, either the
Okay.
beginning or end of July.
Okay. Well, you'll definitely have to tell us how that goes. Like, very excited to hear about that. How have you been training and preparing for it?
To be honest, I haven't really yet. I mean, where I'm at my fitness level, um, there's not much I need to change, to be honest.
Okay.
My current fitness routine is, I lift 6 days a week and I run probably about 4 days a week.
Yeah.
So I've been starting to, I guess the only thing I'm really working on is I don't have very good grip strength. So I've been trying to work on that. And
Okay.
I think it's just going to be a lot of just running to the next obstacle, getting through it, then going to the next obstacle, getting through it. So I think I should be okay if I just keep doing what I'm doing now.
Heck yeah. That's very cool. Um, and just, you mentioned the running, and I remember you sharing with me you did a marathon and just kind of decided one day you were going to do that. Talk about that a little bit.
Yep. Last year was I did the Des Moines Marathon. I didn't really train for that either. I did probably about 4 or 5 training runs to where 15
And mine,
miles was the longest I ran.
yeah.
And then, so come race day, and I get up to that 15-mile mark, and I was really starting to feel it. And it almost seems like you're about halfway done because you got to get to 26.2. And then so I had a friend running with me who he's been running his whole life. He was just running circles around me the whole time. And so I just kind of focused on the next water station because they're a mile apart. Get to that, drink some water, walk through it, and start running again. Because I knew if I stopped, I wasn't going to start back up.
Right.
But I knew there was nothing I was gonna crawl across the finish line if I had to.
What do you think? Where does that drive come from in you? Just like that. I mean, you've trained hard for a number of years. Like, you do not shy away from physical challenges, just like this one, you've coming up with the toughest mudder. Like, what do you think it is in you?
I think a little bit of it is pride, probably. And I think that comes from the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
They just instilled that in me. I don't like being told I can't do something. It's going to make me want to do it even more. So now that I'm in my mid to late 30s, I'm trying to find anything I can to push my body as much as I can before I'm not able to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So each year I'm trying to think of something kind of crazy to do and train for. It's important for people like me, at least, to have a goal in mind.
Yeah.
If I don't, I'm just kind of treading water.
Yeah, I get that. Do you have anything kind of on the docket once you move through the toughest mudder that you're kind of looking forward to after that as like a physical challenge?
I think I might look into a bike race called Ragbri next year. And it's such a huge race to me, but then when I tell people outside of Iowa, they're like, I've never heard of it. But that's like it goes from one side of the state to the other. It's like
very
5
cool.
or 6 days long, and you're riding like about 100 to 150 miles a day.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to hear about that.
Yeah, we'll see if I do that, because I went on a 18-mile bike ride last week and I was hurting.
Yeah. Out of all the stuff, that you've done fitness-wise, what has been your favorite, or what do you have a favorite?
If I had to pick a favorite style of fitness, CrossFit has always had a place in my heart. It was the camaraderie again. So, getting there at 5 a.m. and having that same group of people you're surrounded by, and, everybody's hyping each other up, pushing each other. I like the style of lifting. The only problem was it's too hard on my joints, so I can't do it. But I love that brotherhood surrounding it.
Do you train out of a gym now, Ben, or do you train at home?
I go to Anytime Fitness right now because I live in a small town, so it's nice. It's right on the suburb of Des Moines, basically. So there's about 15 Anytime Fitnesses in the area for me to choose from. So it's nice to be able to go if I want to go lift at 9 at night or 4 in the morning. I can do that.
Yeah, that is super nice. I want to loop back a minute here, Ben, to Catch a Lift. And you said, that you learned about Kale from the VA. Talk to us a little bit about what your experience has been like within the Kale program since you've been in.
Well, it's been great. When I first started looking into Cal and I got signed up and I was going through the starter program to get qualified for it, it kind of helped me stay on track with my fitness, because when I first got sober, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to turn to fitness. And if I would have just started lifting at the gym by myself without that support system, I don't know if I would have kept at it.
Right.
So knowing that I was part of a program and I had access to all the coaches that I could ask questions to and all the different programs that I had access to, it really helped me stay on track and keep focused with it.
Yeah, that's tremendous. Well, we're so glad that you found Catch a Lift. And like I said, definitely let us know how the toughest mudder goes this year. I do have one last question for you today, Ben. What does it mean to you to be a Catch a Lift veteran athlete?
It's another thing for me to have pride in.
Yeah.
You guys don't ask me to do this at all, but I tell you, like, I'm pushing the Cal program to everybody I see, all my vet friends.
Oh, I love it.
That's awesome. Like, you guys are crazy if you're not looking into it.
Yeah.
It's a great program. It helps them too. So I don't think, like, I'm a pretty blunt person, and I don't think I could think of one negative thing to say about the program.
That's tremendous. Well, thank you so much for spreading the word about Kale, Ben. We certainly appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Coach's Corner. We're always so grateful to have the opportunity to connect with our members and heal through the stories of our veterans. A special thank you to our guest today, Ben, for sharing in your light with us all today. We're so very grateful to have you on and listen to your story. Don't forget to join us every Wednesday live at 1 p.m. Eastern on YouTube for a chance to win Cal swag and to chat with your brothers and sisters. If you liked today's episode, please be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and leave us a review on your favorite streaming service. Until next week, keep it real and stay Cal strong.